Hey there, everybody. How's it going? Welcome to week four. Now we're into world religions, world religions. Got Judaism down. Good job on everyone's discussion posts from last week. I think, again, each discussion post, I want you to pick something you're interested in, learn a little bit more about it. That's the whole point of them. So good job. Some people picked, a little bit of Jewish history, a figure from the Bible. Some people looked at the Tanakh. I guess we should the Tanakh, the Hebrew Bible, or stories, or a story or a section from them. Some people did that one, great. And then or a Jewish festival, which again, good picking that. It seemed like everyone had a pretty good, good description of each of their topics. Good use of sources too. Again, I want to kind of get in the habit of just checking our sources, making sure you know where your information is coming from. I know with AI, it'll generate sources for you and different websites, but I want to make sure that people are clicking on that and encountering that, kind of assessing those sites. I mean, sometimes some of those are just totally made up; they don't even go anywhere. But then sometimes they take you to sites that are I don't know, not as scholarly, or a lot of them are picking up AI themes that have been generated from other sites and sort of regenerated AI stuff, and so it's starting to get sort of muddled a little bit. So just anything you use, it's sort of up to you. The ball's in your court, just to make sure it's verified and verifiable, and it's not just some random thing. So I want everyone get in the practice of that, of verifying where your information is coming from. So good. I think everyone did a good job of doing that as well. So great. And then the other thing I want to talk about, student announcements. There's some new student announcements there. One is Lunar New Year. We're going to be celebrating on Manono campus. And the other one is Study Abroad Japan. If anybody wants to do that, there's an opportunity, a 9-day study abroad program. They're open to students across the community college system. So if you're interested, send an email or apply, I think, by February 17th. Then there's a few other announcements in the student announcements as well. Right, which kind of gets us to the content for this week, which is Christianity. So again, the sort of Abrahamic religion. We're going to start with Abrahamic religions, Judaism. Hopefully everyone has a better idea of where it came from, some Jewish beliefs, practices, those kind of ideas. Because Christianity is, it's in the same range, right? The same world. I talked about a little bit of Christian history. Then it came up. Christianity emerged at this very volatile, if you will, time in Judea, but also very much helped in the spread through the connections of the Roman Empire, so circa 0 CE, if you will. And obviously Jesus and the life of Jesus is a pinnacle point of Christianity, major figure of Christianity. So yeah, I kind of talked about what do we know about Jesus, the history of his life. A lot of it is from the New Testament, particularly the Gospels, and then the early spread of Christianity through these apostles, disciples, Peter, Paul, and then Thomas, even all the way to India, places in Africa as well. And then, but still, Christianity was a minority religion. In fact, deemed illegal by the Romans because it didn't, sort of monotheism versus their polytheistic world. But then the Byzantine Empire allows for the legality of Christianity, and that's kind of how it becomes a world, or its first phase of becoming a world religion. So kind of the history of it. Beliefs, obviously, sort of fundamentally Jesus. So belief in him as the Son of God. Now we're talking about God. So Yahweh is the Hebrew name. God is the Christian name. There, beliefs. The Word of God, the New Testament for texts. That's the important one. So the Gospels, letters from Paul and the apostles. I think Revelations is part of that as well. So a little bit different, though. The Tanakh, the Hebrew Bible, is still very much part of Christianity as well. So sort of the Old and New Testaments texts. I think that's it. And then beliefs, the Beatitudes, Sermon on the Mount, those kind of things. A lot of the sayings of Jesus are important. And then practices, like going to church, the Eucharist. For many Christians, that's very central part of that. Imbibing the transubstantiation, right? It's a term we put with that, the body and blood of Christ, keeping that alive. there, going to church, then festivals. I mean, I think people are familiar with Christian festivals. Easter's a big one, obviously, and the whole lead up to that, Lent, um, Ash Wednesday, all of those things that come up to that partake with Easter. Christmas, obviously, another major one. There's other, depends on what denominations you are. We'll get into that sort of split up there, but the basic practices of Christianity. So festivals, Eucharist, beliefs, all of those things. So hopefully that made sense. And the assignment for this week is, because Jesus is a central figure of Christianity, and people are probably familiar with parts of Jesus' life. I want you to engage with the primary sources, engage with the actual Gospels. So there's 4 Gospels. The first 3, Matthew, Mark, and Luke, are relatively, they contain similar information, though a little bit different. John's a little bit out there. I explained it a little bit more in my lecture. But what I want you to do is pick, and I gave you sort of lists. I went through and kind of found crossovers of events of Jesus' life. But I want you to read that event in 2 different gospels, and then evaluate what's similar, what's the same, or what's different between these. Kind of another practice of these primary sources. I mean, people have heard about the birth of Jesus, but how are those accounted in and a lot of what we know about is a mixture of all of those gospels. So what does one say? What does the other say? Are there similarities? What are the differences? Just kind of this idea of again, this verification. There's these primary sources. Here's the stories we know. Where are these coming from? How do they, what are some differences, if there are, or are they substantial, or just, kind of minor? Those kind of just start engaging with that, because a lot of religion is texts, going through texts, what we know from these texts, and sometimes people just sort of take it like, okay, that's what I was told, but here's an opportunity to go read it yourself. So I have links to each gospel. Pick a element, an event from Jesus' life, and see how it's explained in at least 2. Compare it to at least 2. Some of them have more, some of them have all 4. You can choose 2, or you can do all 4, however you want to do it. And then quote from the Bible itself, from the new, the PDF, or if you find it on a version online. I know there's plenty online New Testaments, but again, the idea is, what is it saying? Get familiar with the actual, it's there. So let's utilize it. So, all right, I think that's it. Have a good rest of your week.